One of the most important things between success and failure is actually the way you think. So in this episode, we are going to dive into how to reprogram your mind, so stay tuned. One of the first things I ever realized in actually trying to build myself after years and years of struggle and failure, from the homelessness to everything else, was the importance of what Steve Myrick first taught me, which is the importance of actually having a healthy mindset. And I don't mean mindset in the traditional sense where it's more like a buzzword. I mean more in the practical sense. I mean the how-to steps. So what is the way in which you follow in order to re-strengthen your mind, set it up for reprogramming, and make sure your mind is operating at peak performance so everything else follows behind it? So what I want to do is take just a few minutes and actually break it down in such a way that I hope you can follow to actually help you get traction so you too can go from stuck to unstoppable in every area of your life. So let's go ahead and jump in. I think the first number one thing that starts every single day is what I refer to as getting gratitude. Okay, now you have heard probably every major influencer in the personal development space talk about the importance of gratitude. That's why it's so important. Not one single person who has achieved high levels of success, high levels of possibilities, or high levels of growth or personal growth avoids being thankful for the small things. So much of life is about being thankful for the little so you can be made master over much. And that's what we want to do when we look at gratitude. For example, every single morning I wake up sometime somewhere around 6:30, every single morning, sometimes 5:30, but every single morning the first 15 minutes of my day is spent in prayer and meditation, simply being grateful for the life that I have now, especially after all the adversity. Now, I didn't start doing that once I became successful. I started doing that long before success followed me to life and reality. The question for you is it following you? Are you waking up? Are you spending time being thankful for the very air you breathe in your lungs? Because I can promise you, this year of COVID that's kind of going on at the time of this taping, all of it has tested every single person. And in many cases, in a roundabout way, it's actually tested them in the way they breathe. So many people right now might actually be struggling for oxygen where you're actually able to breathe it in. That's why it's important. As long as you're faithful and responsible with the small things and giving gratitude and being in a thankful place, as Chris Hogan would say, it's hard to be hateful when you're grateful. As long as you're doing those things in practicality, that is going to lead you towards consistent, successful behaviors. All right, number two. Number two is watch what you say. When I say watch what you say, I don't mean watch what you say to other people as much as I mean watch what you say to the person in the mirror. Why? Because you will always be your own worst critic. You are always going to know your flaws. Why? Because your thoughts, while they may be incredibly loud, other people traditionally can't hear your thoughts. So when you're critiquing yourself and when you're harming yourself and you're talking about your low sense of self-worth and the imposter syndrome and all of these different things that we tell ourselves that are complete garbage, man. When we tell ourselves this stuff, we are already programming our mind towards not realizing our full potential. What we want to do, on the other hand, is affirm what's going on. We want to talk ourselves into possibilities and not out of them. So the question is what are you saying to yourself? For example, I'm consistently telling myself, not that I'm an imposter, not that I can't make a difference, not that I can't create possibilities, not that I can't generate my own outcomes. What I'm talking to myself about is how can I impact more people's lives? What do I need to do to grow? If you go back and watch my earlier videos, you can see I'm not exactly all that well polished on camera. But one of the things I'm learning is the more you do something, the better you become at it. Call it getting the push-ups, call it doing the reps, call it whatever you want. But the reality is if you continue at it and you stay at it and you continually tell yourself you can do things that maybe you don't think you can do now, you are going to build over time a consistent level of confidence. That confidence will bleed into performance, purpose, significance, meaning, affirmation, connection, and so on. So the question is, what are you telling yourself? All right, which leads us to the third point, which I'll put over here. Affirmations. Okay, now a lot has been said about affirmations. For some of you guys who are super type A and super tough and like you got the cock diesel muzzles and all that kind of stuff,
How can you ever go into the affirmations and...
Dude, I got news for you. When you come from where I come from, sometimes the only thing you can lean on is what you're telling yourself in the mirror. And whether or not you're telling yourself you're wrong or you're right or you're rich or you're poor or whatever that thing is, whatever you're telling yourself becomes your reality over time. 90% of the population that is in the stuck category, which makes up 70% of the total world's population, is in that frustration stuck zone. Time magazine did another survey on it not long ago. When it comes down to affirmations, I'm not talking about the hokey. I'm talking about the practical. I can tell you that I have personally spent time in front of my mirror saying, I am smart. I am intelligent. I am not going to be defined by my dropout, my high school dropout. I'm not going to be defined by this mistake. I'm not going to be defined by what someone else believes I can achieve. It's none of their freaking business. What I can achieve is my business. It's my responsibility to create the steps. It's my responsibility to read the books, watch the videos, get the mentors. My responsibility, just like yours is yours. You have to get to a place where your brain is reprogrammed. We are conditioned by our overall culture as of right now to chase things that make us feel inadequate. You can decide right now not to follow that process, but you've got to decide right now not to follow the process. You have to decide right now to step up and take ownership of what you can be and then what you think is possible. Okay? And you do that at the very smallest level, the very micro level is a mirror and you. I am smart. I am intelligent. I am gifted. I am worthy. I am worthy of being loved. I am lovable. So I don't care if you've been at the gym and you're all cock diesel and your biceps are like busting out of your t-shirts. I see some of the most beefcake dude guys essentially that have some of the lowest self-esteems. If you really want to win at your life and you really want to be successful and you really want to stop thinking negative thoughts all the time, then you have to audibly hear those types of things consistently over time. And before long, all of a sudden, the program that was controlling that thought process, if you will, has been overwritten. Much like what happens when you actually do an update on a computer system. Same process. So again, affirmations are important in that it goes down to the positive things that you're telling yourself about yourself and your future. It doesn't have to be fluffy and it doesn't have to be fairy dust, but it does have to become part of your routine. All right, next up. Here we go. Rest and replenishment. Here's what I mean by that. Far too many times we stay focused on go, 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 only to realize that the next day we're exhausted. The next day we don't want to take a step. The next day we don't want to learn something because we're fried, man. We're tired. We're tired. So when it comes down to rest and replenishment, it's got to be part of your realistic plan. Because if your brain is foggy, it's going to be really hard for you to actually program basically anything at performance level. Your thought process has to be triggered by action. Your thought process has to be triggered by blood flow. Your thought process has to be triggered by essentially nutrients and things of that nature. You've got to make sure all these parts and pieces are there for your brain to draw on, right? To make it stronger over time. So as you're doing your gratitude and as you're watching what you say and as you're watching the affirmations that you're putting into yourself, your brain can actually take those and absorb those and make it part of its own DNA, so to speak. Rest and replenishment, I need you to remember this. 6 days on, 1 day off. 6 days on, 1 day off. When I say 1 day off, I mean you're going to be doing something or not doing anything at all, but you are going to rest. You're going to put down the phone, put down the computer, put down the job, put down the other thing, and actually rest. Get enough sleep. If you were to look at any survivalist, Bear Grylls and so on and so forth, you're going to learn that there's something called sleep deprivation. And when your brain is exhausted, it does not fire properly, whether that be nutrients and or sleep. Your brain has to be rested to perform at its maximum level. Otherwise, you may suffer from symptoms of depression and anxiety, just to name a few things that are a byproduct of being sleep deprived or not having a rested mind. Rest and replenishment are so pivotal in how you actually shape your thoughts that it can actually control the overall outcome of the thoughts that you achieve or seek to achieve. What I mean by that is a tired brain is going to have a much more difficult time controlling that thought and actually getting something more productive out of it. A tired brain is going to have a really, really hard time with the overall affirmation. It's going to wander towards the imposter syndrome and some of the other limiting beliefs that we face. You've got to rest your mind in order to actually build momentum. So let's go ahead and go to the next one. Number 5, you're going to want to breathe early and often. Now, I know that sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but what I mean by that is I mean intentional deep breaths. I'm not talking about just going through your normal day and going, or whatever. I'm talking about why do we want to do that? A couple different things. First of all, it slows your tempo. Second of all, it slows or brings down your blood pressure. Third of all, it gives you enough oxygen to give your brain spark like big juts of oxygen and air, so to speak. When you do that, you're allowing your brain to take in everything that's coming through your arteries and your blood vessels and then recycle it in such a way that brings you to the place called center. I've learned by doing these things, this piece right here builds on the momentum of the other 4, but when I add this to it, I get to this place, what most people call flow. Flow by nature is the most creative place that you can be. It's more than just operating in your passions. It's more than just operating in your strengths. It's the place where your thoughts are flowing. Some people do it on a run. They call it runner's high. Some people do it on a swim. Call it swimmer's high. But it's flow. All of a sudden, everything around you gets clearer, more distinct, easier to identify, easier to process. Hard questions become easy questions. Difficult traumas become stepping stones. All because you chose to work right here first. Everything out of your life is going to come through the thought before it gets down to the heart. Everything. What you focus on, you feel. What you feel, you take action on. What you take action on becomes your results. So if you want to win at life, business, career, anything in every area of your life, you've got to master the mind first. If you have one place to focus, just one place to focus to get unstoppable momentum, is going to be in the way you think. This is a 5-step process, and it works like clockwork, only if you work it. So you got to work it. And if you want more information on how to make this thing work for you, then check out this video right here. Until then, I'll see you again. Take care.